Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattocks, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
This week, we're going to talk about conscious awareness, which for some of you might be a very weird conversation to have because conscious awareness isn't something that we often talk about. There's not a class on it. The places you'll find education on things like conscious awareness are typically your meditation centers or maybe even in abstract at your church or synagogue or temple or what have you. When we look at conscious awareness, though, we have an advantage as Freemasons because we have a ton of structural components we can use to talk about what it is and even perhaps map some of the stages of conscious awareness. Today, we're going to start with the sort of Tuscan stage of conscious awareness. It's this pre-understanding of the way the world works, the things that are happening. It is not evaluative. Okay, so what does that mean? That all sounds crazy complicated. When you wake up in the morning, there is a series of sensations you're going to have. If you remember this morning when you woke up, you probably were first aware of brightness or light of some kind. You don't give it a label. You don't name it as the sun or the room light or any of that kind of stuff. You are at a Tuscan level of awareness. It is just a sensation. Everything that you're going to experience throughout the day at a Tuscan level of awareness is just sensation. It is not even labeled mentally in your head. It is the sensation before labeling it. So it is the feeling of cold before calling it cold. Tuscan awareness, or that level of just conscious awareness without any sort of additional function to it, is a vital thing to develop. Being able to note what is happening without giving it a name, without giving it an evaluation, without any of those extras, the impositions of other levels of consciousness on that awareness, cultivating that makes for a very valuable sort of stage in the process of developing. If you can begin to have experiences and increase your awareness of those experiences, again, at a pre-naming, pre-evaluative state, you then set up the stage for additional levels of development moving forward. What happens through this process as you begin to cultivate this awareness, your ability to sense things will increase over time. Like any instrumentation, your ability to understand the smaller fluctuations, the subtleties, and the nuance will develop, again, through this exploration. So when we look to develop this for ourselves, there are some fundamental practices. Most folks will consider things like going for a walk in nature or sitting in meditation or even just laying down and kind of doing a mental bodily scan is a great way to begin the process of cultivating that level of awareness. And without trying to ruin or spoil the story here, what happens as you go through these stages of consciousness, and again, we're mapping them to the principal orders of architecture for convenience more than anything. There's no sort of symbolic reference here in any of the ritual or any of that kind of stuff. So we're using the frameworks of Freemasonry essentially to just give us that apparatus that we can use without, again, connecting this to any historical reference or any of that kind of stuff. But using it as that apparatus, what will happen is as you move through these various architectural stages of consciousness, you'll note that they start taking on this sort of recursive similarity, so that this level of conscious awareness that you have at the Tuscan level also maps to a level of conscious awareness that you have actually at the very end, the composite level. And it's almost like an Ouroboros or a snake eating its own tail. When we cultivate this consciousness, we're going to be moving through these stages to help us grow and evolve and advance, so that we get to that point of enlightenment where we are both consciously aware and have complete agency. One of the perils of awareness alone, without any of the evaluative context over top, is that you don't gain mastery over your ability to respond. It's just response. And so in that way, there's a certain amount of perpetual sort of victimhood in that process. And we're going to move past all of this and explain it more as we get into some of the more discrete stages in the middle. See you then.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at masonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.